everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday. I'm going to call this the mastermind call for Workman Success, right? And
Yeah.
today we're thrilled to have with us Sara Guldi, who is a master coach, and we're going to be exploring her journey, path, and resilience, and how that plays out in our lives, and how it plays out in our growth, and how we address that. I'm Paul Sessum. I'm your host today. I too am a master coach, not quite as master as Sara, so I do have to be on my toes today. So I am here and ready and ready to go. So I'm based in Los Angeles. Sara, tell us a little bit about where you're at and how we should know you.
I live in South Florida now. I'm about 20 miles west of Fort Lauderdale. I moved here 8 years ago. At the time, I still had an active real estate team and had also realized that it was at the next level. So we didn't need to be present in our business every day anymore physically. And so looked at that as an opportunity to move to weather where we could have scuba diving year round, sailing year round, and just general, not have to deal with snow anymore. It was pretty nice.
That
I've been
nice.
licensed.
I've never done that. I've
Yeah.
never been in snow, so I don't know that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And there are people I meet here that are like, I've never seen snow. And I'm like, well, you don't need to. It's okay. You're good. Been licensed since 2005. I got my license right after my son Joseph was born. My partner at the time had been selling a lot of real estate and decided he wanted to open up a brokerage. And in order to do that, he had to pour all of his energy into opening the brokerage. And so I got licensed to step in and take over running the team. It wasn't a team at the time, it was him. And so I stepped into that role. I hired the first assistant and there we grew. So I was involved in that team from 2005 until just this year, actually. In March, I left that business and I'm focused exclusively on coaching now.
Right, grow people's lives, which really at the end of the day, you look back and you go, that's what you were doing all along, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was always doing that with our team members, with the clients we were working with. It's always been a passion to me to help develop people. And so it's where I've decided to pour my energy now.
When you were working with the team and you stepped in with your license and went working with the team, did you get the opportunity to work with the brokerage as well and develop that and be a leader inside of the brokerage, or did you stay with just the team?
I was not officially a leader in the brokerage, but as an owner of the brokerage, I was always there to help support agents. I would often do productivity coaching. I would help just make sure they were filling out their contracts right. I'm a very high C along with my very high D. And so one thing that was, it sounds crazy and boring, but I loved helping people with compliance and making sure they actually knew how to fill out the documents they were supposed to be filling out. And so that was a very active role I took, not because, we needed that role filled per se, but because I loved doing it and it was teaching them in the process.
That would be interesting, you as a teacher, to have that role being the C high D, right? Which is, this is exactly how you do it. So get to it and do it now and stop analyzing it. That
right.
Would be
and do it well the first time.
Yes, let's not repeat this process along. Guys, as we go along, go online and share on Facebook and say hello to Sara. Let her know that you're here cheering for her. She has a raving group of clients and their teams that just every time you walk into a Workman Success event and there's clients there, you are there, is that Sara's name is on the top of everybody's mind. She's one of the most forward-thinking coaches we have. She challenges everybody in the very best of ways, including the coaches. And she asks us really to stand in our principles, right? And living a principled life is really the success to growth and actually as part of resilience. And what we're going to delve into right now is that when you decided to get into real estate, right? New career, something new was happening there and you chose. Did you meet any challenges or adversity into that process and how to get started and get going?
I'm an interesting real estate story because often you hear people say they got into real estate because they loved working with people and they loved selling houses. And I knew from go, I was not getting into real estate because I was passionate about houses. I was getting into real estate because I was passionate about creating a life worth living, if you will, for my son, for my stepson, for my family. And so I was passionate about making sure that we could do the things we wanted to do and that they could have the experiences that I felt that they should have, and they should have the education that they could have. And so for me, I was always very connected to my why, and real estate was just a means to the end.
Okay, so being connected to the why, you're committed to that, which actually shortcuts your passage to adversity, maybe.
Yeah,
Right?
it does in a way, because when I would encounter a difficult transaction, like, certainly I'm human. Certainly there are times I've been supremely frustrated, and still, get to that point sometimes, because I am human. But there was often times when it was hard and I didn't like what I had to do. And I would just, again, get reconnected to, look, this is why you're doing this. I remember actually our application to Keller Williams for our brokerage, on our big why we had to put, we literally just put a picture of our son that had just been born the 9 months prior. That was the why.
Wow. Okay. So that was that is right when that's the whole life. This is what we're doing it for. Is our future
Yeah.
is right here. So when you're going down that road then and you're looking at your why and you say, how do you develop that piece and then implement it so that you implement it to be purposeful? Let's put it that way.
So sometimes I think it takes what I'm going to call challenging reflection. It can be very easy to say, well, I want to have a nice car. I want to have a nice house. And it takes a little bit more to really dig deep and see what is motivating you, but it's not hard to do. It just takes the willingness to get a little bit bare with yourself and get a little bit objective with yourself. When Paul and I were waiting on this call before we started, I said, I've never done a Facebook Live before. And he was surprised. And it was, I know it's because I'm just like, not really my thing. And there's some hesitancy. And at the same time, when this was the topic and I was asked to do this, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because I love talking about resilience. That is something that I dug deep, I got clear on, and it's really been a critical piece of my journey and my path in life.
Okay, so addressing adversity and then
Yep.
bouncing back through it, right? So when we think of the word telos, a Greek word, it's about our definite purpose. And so when we get clear on that decision-making process, that's when we become effective. Is that kind of what I just heard you talk about a minute ago?
Yeah. So actually, I worked with a resilience coach. So I'm going to refer to the work that we've done a lot. But one of the pillars, if you will, of resilience that she identified, and that I'm actually working with her now, not as a client, but as a partner. I'm working with her now to develop something. And so one of the pillars of resilience was finding your dharma, getting clear on your identity. It's that same word that you just said. It's being really supremely clear on who you are and who you're meant to be in this world. I have on my desk and I look at it every day, and it's my mission statement. It's sitting right here where I can see it every single day. And so I have that clarity and purpose, and that applies to business and to life. When you are willing to take the time and examine, then when adversity happens, it's okay to say, you know what, that's hard. I'm going to acknowledge it, and I'm not going to let it stop me from getting to where I know I am here to be.
Okay, so we're not going to be able to escape adversity, even with these ideas and plans in place, right?
No,
So,
yeah.
right. So in order to overcome adversity is having a written idea, plan, things that you personally connect to, a mantra almost.
Yeah.
Right. That you can address every day and to be able, because you're going to hit adversity no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Right. Life doesn't allow us to get around it. So being that purposeful where you've designed for yourself is that here's my mission statement. It's here by me all the time. When I'm feeling challenged, I look to that piece and go, where does this fit? I'm going to use an example because I was thinking about this morning.
Yeah.
We were at a coach's training and Burrow was presenting an idea about, hey guys, I have some ideas about bringing in different partners into supporting Workman success, right? And he put it to the coaches and he says, what about these guys? What about this? And he laid it all out. And it was very transparent what his goals were, which is, it's up to you guys to really help me make these decisions. And it was you and Jim Knowlton that kind of pulled out very quickly together and said, how does this relate to our core values, all of these vendors? That was the very first thing. I remember that so clearly because I was very proud of you in that moment, even though I hardly knew you. It was like, that's right. Getting connected to the purpose, right? What did you
Right.
call it? The Dharma.
Your dharma, yeah, your identity. Who and the word you used applies too. Dharma is the Hindu word, I believe, but telos is what you said, the Greek word. It's all the same thing. It's that divine purpose that you're here on this earth to complete.
I love that. And say, does it change?
I think it can grow over time. My purpose 15 years ago has certainly changed to what it is now. I wasn't even, I hadn't even been on the path of growing resilience 15 years ago. It was actually, big life things, as you said, adversity is what had me start examining this journey and had me start saying, okay, there's got to be some other way to manage this other than just being sad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I dug into it.
Okay. So, okay. So you saw it. So first of all, you didn't take any of it really personal, or when you found that you did, you took action on that? Like to not be like, how do I want to say this is not to identify it as a personal thing, right? Is look at it from the outside objectively.
It's an opportunity for growth. And yet when we first start on that path, we can look at it and get very defensive. Like, well, I'm not that. I don't have that in me. This has all happened to me instead of what role did I play in this? How am I at cause for what has happened in this situation? And so it is a shift from personal accountability or to personal accountability from being a victim.
Right. Yes, from being personal accountability to victim, right? And then also the idea of how long or pervasive are you going to allow this to be in your life, right?
Right.
Meaning, I'm going to take my bruises a little bit. I'm going to cry right now. I'm going to throw my temper tantrum, and I'm going to do the they, and then say I'm done. I've got it out. And so, how long do you need to do that, right? I guess that's always the question. How long will you keep that in? Is it permanent or not permanent, or?
Well, so what I've found through brutally experiencing it, because I used to be very resistant to actually dealing with things that came my way. I just wanted to bypass my way through the rough and difficult emotions. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine. And we're just going to keep going and we're just going to do this. And what I have found, and I can't take ownership of this metaphor, but it was given to me and it's amazingly perfect, is not dealing with the adversity at the time that it happens, not leaning into it and surrendering to it is akin to holding a beach ball underwater. The ball is going to bounce up and pop you in the face over and over and over again until you just lean into it and go through it. And so the quickest way through adversity is to actually go through it, because otherwise you're just amplifying the amount of time you wait to get through it, because no matter what, you got to go through it.
Right. And so are you going to deal with it now, or are you going to deal with it later? Because
Right.
It's still going to come back. And if you looked at the bell curve concept, that's that ball bouncing out of the water, right?
Right.
We haven't really identified what is resilience actually. What is that?
For me, resilience is I look at it as the emotional intelligence, the self-care. I'll tell you the pillars. Actually, it's practicing joy. It's making sure that my spiritual health is tended to, my physical health is tended to, my emotional health is tended to, and my mental health is tended to. It's almost like there's 4 pieces to it, and then there's just different practices of it. So, as an example, when we first met, I was probably close to 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, and I was really struggling with that. And I kept working out and I kept eating different things and trying all these different things. And at that time, the reason I was doing that was just so I could love myself just a little bit more. And when I shifted to taking care of my physical self because I love myself instead of in order to love myself, was when I was able to make real progress. And so for me, resilience and radical self-care is about learning how to love yourself so unconditionally that when stuff comes your way, you're still solid in the core foundation of who you are. And you have the tools to be able to manage that and recognize, yeah, there's adversity and I can handle it. And I'm strong enough to live through it, and I have my tribe and my community, and they have my back.
Okay, that's great. So now when we're looking at this and we apply it directly into tools and systems that we're using with Workman, right?
Yeah.
And we're in this point in time right now, which is what are we doing pretty much as a coaching company right now? We're going into business plans, right?
Yeah.
And there's a place in the business plans that allow you to actually address what you just brought up.
Right. So
right?
getting clear on the core values and your strategic plan allows that unshakable knowing, like, this is who I am. And so we're going to, no matter what, this is what we come back to, and we're solid in that foundation.
Right. And design your 5 Fs.
Yeah. Faith,
right?
family, fun, friends.
So you build all of this plan together, and it keeps fitness, and it keeps the whole piece now starts to become the you said it earlier. Now I wrote it down and I've lost my note on it. When you have your mission statement, your plan, it becomes part of that whole piece that you have there, and then it's in detail when you open up this business plan.
Right.
Because it's more than your business; it's your life, right?
Right. The connecting with your dharma is the word I use. That's what really allows you, both personally and professionally. Like when you're clear on who you are personally, and then you're clear on who you are in your business. Like you have your core values laid out, you have your mission, vision, and purpose laid out. That's when you can become unshakable, even in the face of adversity. And so it translates really well professionally when you put that work in.
Yeah, and it's identifying the who you are, because we talked about this the other day, is that as we grow through adversity, we're resilient in the sense that we're made of the material that we bounce back with, right?
Right.
Right. And there we're defining, here's our, for want of a better way of saying it, here's our rubber. This is it. Now, and not identifying, or perhaps not having that structure, or not, I hate the word. I'm using two words I don't like: hate and not. The NLP lady, right? Those are two words that I just heard myself go, who is I dislike. Is these are the parts, is that's the resistance piece, which allows us to be more fragile, right? If we're not identifying, we're not sure how to bounce back because we don't know who we are.
Right. That's generally when we see the most, I dealt with this with a client today, and it's been an ongoing discussion, is he's just now really starting to get clarity on who he wants to show up as in his business. And it's not been for lack of having the conversations, but I think it takes people time to get on that path. I'm 45 years old. I didn't, sit up at 13 and say, I've got my dharma. It's taken adversity. It's taken things pushing me in directions that I never thought I'd go in for me to say, okay, let's dial in on this. And so I absolutely think it can change. And I think that it's recognizing that it might be hard to get clear on it, but that it's okay that it's hard, because doing hard things is what molds us into stronger people.
Or to be honest with yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's once you can allow yourself to be honest and transparent with yourself, then everything else can unfold in front of that.
Right.
And so going back to that, defining the other thing in the business plan is defining those 5 Fs. So we have our mission, we've got our core values. I find these very valuable, the 5 Fs. One of the key pieces of that is, what is my adversity? What's going to show up? What is the obstacle that will show up, and how will I bounce back from that?
I actually
love
circle back to the 5 Fs real quick, because there's something really critical in that. In the resilience that I've studied, creativity and play is a huge piece of resilience. And so often, and I think it's almost an energetic thing, especially, people like us that are really high Ds, we get so focused on just doing and going and pushing all the time that we never take time to just be, to just have fun and just tap into our creative side. So that's a big part of it. For that fun is to make sure that we incorporate creativity and play into our life. And family and community are so critical too. And that was probably one of the hardest things for me to tap into, was to allow my community in and to reach out and to connect to my community.
Okay, so allow it to be felt, right? To feel and to be felt. I had a coach once that did something very similar for me, because I was a go. And the coaching that I was in at the time was every morning 30 minutes, and it was performance based. So here, do these, and the exercise I had for today, they said, are you ready for a challenge? And I'm like, oh no, here we go. Yes, I'm ready for a challenge. At lunch today, go to the nearest park, leave your phone, take your boots off, because I wear cowboy boots all the time, right? Take your boots off and take your socks off and just sit in the grass and just look around and breathe.
Yeah. So hard to do.
It was incredibly difficult. I first of all, I said, I'm not going to do that. That's just crazy. That was my first reaction. I don't have time. That's a silly exercise. And then it's like, well, I committed. I said I would. So because of that, I'm going to move forward. And it was a very difficult, for me, it was somewhat emotional. I was like, wow, that's a pretty energetic thing to do. So, however, when I'm looking at addressing adversity, that's the feeling that comes back. That's my bounce back.
I think I made it 3 minutes the first time I did it, maybe 3 minutes. And I certainly can go longer now, but even now there's times that I struggle with it. But I think in the stillness and in the quiet, that's where we really connect to ourselves. And so that's something that's important in doing the business plan and getting clear on your values, is to actually just take time to be still and connect with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And listen.
Yeah.
Right. And listen and trust. Looking at where you've moved through your career, right? And you made a big transition when transitioning from real estate practice into business development, right? Which is really where you're at right now. So what did you confront in that transition? Because you were letting go a very practice sort of regiment that drove people, is that right? That encouraged people into production, that encouraged an outcome that was measurable into something that it was going to be a little bit more abstract. What did you confront in that transition?
One of the biggest things is the security of it. It was really hard to confront letting go of the security of it. I know I'm good at real estate, but I don't love it. And so while that was okay for me when I was looking at, what kind of life am I creating for my family? What doing this resilience work has actually created for me is that connection to, I don't want to do things that aren't going to get me closer to my purpose anymore. And so coaching and business development is getting me closer to that purpose. Selling real estate really wasn't. It was, like I said earlier, it was a means to an end, and it was perfect at the time. But now that I'm at the point of examining where I am in my life, I don't want to do things that don't move me closer anymore. And so when I stepped away from my real estate business, it was an interesting conversation. I think it was probably within a week of in a week of me stepping away from it, somebody asked me, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I was like, I'd go back to school. And so I'm now a full-time student.
Wow, that's awesome. Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm going back to school with working on, I actually have to finish my bachelor's, and then I'll be working on my master's in industrial organizational psychology. And so I can take this, let me help people develop their businesses to build the lives they want to build. And I can take it and scale it across industries even.
Wow, that's big. I didn't know that. Wow, that's a big move. Can I just ask, this is off the record, so to speak, but what is the length of that program, just out of curiosity?
It will be for to finish my bachelor's, it's going to be 2 years, and then the master's will be a year and a half.
Okay. So that's not terrible. That's actually
it's tolerable. It's, I had a major life event. I'm good at having those, apparently. I had a major life event my first time around in college, and it just didn't make sense for me to finish the bachelor's at that time. And so in this time, going back to finish the degree, one of the things I looked at I just said, what's the fastest way for me to get through this degree? And so it's a liberal arts degree is what I'm doing, with a, concentration in psychology, and I'm doing a dual minor, organizational leadership and business in psychology. But that's actually the fastest way, and I need to take all these classes anyways. So I was like, okay, this and this, and all of a sudden I'm laying this incredible foundation for me to do what I love to do at a higher level than I've ever thought I would be able to do it before. And it's because I finally said, I'm not going to settle for that anymore. I'm good at real estate, and I love coaching people in their real estate business. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing that. Mm-hmm. But I'm really grateful to it, because that's what connected me to, wait, I can do this for more people than just real estate.
And scale that up. What a great example for your kids, right? That you're able to continue. It's like, okay, just because something got in the way doesn't mean that it's over,
Right.
right? We can always come back and address or pick it up where it was or recreate it in a different way because we're in a new space, right? So we pick it up from there. Let's look at what some people are saying. David Rollins from Louisiana says hello. Holly Patterson, a good friend of mine, is watching. Hello, Holly. So Gary, I'm sorry, I'm not getting that right, maybe. Thank you for delivering this today. We're going through this right now. And then David also says, without pressure and time, a diamond would never exist. And I think he's speaking directly to you. So
Yeah.
as a diamond, right? So maybe that's the next level of coaching, is the diamond coach, right?
I've been wondering what comes next. Maybe that should be it.
I think you might be the first one stepping into it with no pressure, no diamonds, right? So
I think that as coaches, we all have incredible skills and talents, and I'm always in awe of the other people in the room.
true. I agree. I do, again, sidebarring here is that first time I walked into that Workman Success training, my knees actually were like shaking a little bit. It's like, wow, look at this. How can I contribute here? Right. It was a big level of step up, and people I didn't know, and people that were doing things that I had only thought about or not even thought about. It's just like, wow, what a great room. So it's a big one to grow in, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you're working on this education piece. What do you see as next steps coming up and challenges in front of you, and how will you address those, and how will you use the tools that you have to help you grow?
Well, honestly, I think the biggest next steps would be, okay, how do I leverage that into the corporate world? And so it's going to be all the same tools that we've already talked about, getting really clear on what the mission and the vision and the core values are of that business as I build it. Business planning, doing the strategic planning. What are the metrics for me to succeed at this? And so it's everything that we do every day anyways. It's just going to be applied in a different industry.
Okay. So mirror the tools and
Yeah.
just dedicate it to that, right? And
Yeah.
mirror and match, so to speak.
Right.
How do you help your clients who are confronting resistance or adversity, and getting them through, to help them at times see a way to bounce back when they can't see it in themselves?
So I think it's really important to, I think the phrase I probably say most often to my clients is have grace for yourself. Um, these clients, our clients are high performers, and they're highly driven, and they have these goals that they are they want to meet them. And so when they fall short on something, even if it's a little thing, oftentimes they berate themselves in ways that no one else would ever berate them. And so I find that is the phrase I utter most often is have some grace for yourself. How do we reset? I don't look at failure as something that's actually a bad thing. And so in teaching clients to look at that as, it's feedback. What do we do differently next time? Where's the opportunity for growth is probably the biggest conversation that I have all the time.
Yes, especially as they step into new arenas, right?
Yeah.
You're stepping here, you've never been here before.
Right.
So why would you expect to succeed the first time through this process, or the first time to look at it? Why would you expect that of yourself?
That was it was a big lesson for me, even in the resilience coaching that I did, is learning to have humility in failure. Because how could you expect yourself to know everything? It's, we sit there all the time. We're like, well, I should have known this about lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an incredible level of humility required. And it's not, again, like, this isn't stuff that I said, I'm just going to have humility about it, and it's going to happen. It takes, bumping against some ugly stuff sometimes, but having the humility to say, no, I couldn't have known that. And so I did what I did, doing the best I could, and I'm going to accept that and have grace from it, and I'm going to learn from it and then move forward.
Right. I'm not going to hold on to this, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from it and not let it be permanent in my context.
Right.
And that's what I see we run into a lot. And it's not on all levels. There's different places, and with myself as well, where I have that permanent command, and I really have to pay attention to it when it comes up.
Yeah.
Because it's so comfortable to be there, right?
Yep.
And so I have to tell myself that this is the program that's running with me right now, that's keeping me where I'm at. And either I can choose to stay here because it's comfortable, or I'm going to confront this piece and learn how to work with it. And it may take a battle. It may be a little bit of a climb, and be okay with the climb. right?
Yeah.
Because each time it takes me to someplace new and someplace better and someplace different. I believe that's what coaching does for all of us. As a coach, I know that I learn that from clients. I mean, every day it's it's like, wow, I've got to grow a lot, right? I have the
Yeah. Oh,
opportunity to grow because of the people that I work with.
we as coaches, more often than not, what we're doing is you can look at it a couple of different ways. You can say we're holding up a mirror for them, because sometimes that's what we're doing, and we're just reflecting back to them what they're doing. Sometimes our clients are, trapped in a box and the directions are on the outside. And so there are times we're like, this is how you get out of the box. And we actually tell them, and sometimes it's a combination of the two. So, but times where they're just bumping up against their stories and their stuff is usually, I find, the best time to just hold the mirror up and say, well, what would happen if we considered there was another way to be? And that was the hardest part for me, is to just like lean into that and say, okay, there's another way to be, there's another way to do this, and changing that programming. And it's ongoing. I'm not done. None of us are ever going to be done. There will always be adversity, as you've pointed out. But I love the journey I'm on.
Well, you're certainly walking the walk, you talk the talk, and you live, and you are the example. And it's really fun to work with you and to be in a room with you, because everything that you are and everything that you're not, the polarity of you shows up in that room. And that vulnerability and that transparency that you demonstrate and that you offer is such an example for everybody who walks near you and can be in that circle of influence with you. And I just want to know, I appreciate you so much for being here today, number one, and being transparent and being open. We're at 35 minutes past the hour, so I know that we're going to have to jump off here. I'm going to leave a thought, and then I want you to leave a thought. And one of the things that kept coming up, and I had to pull open something that I read the other day, is the idea. It says, delegate it to the manager. You have this really good staff, and that will take care of everything for you. You just have to delegate it and trust it. Now, obviously, this isn't talking about people. This is talking about delegate it to the manager.
I have on my desk, and this was something that my coach told me to do. And when she first told me about it, I was very like, well, that's just woo. I'm not doing that. And it's a surrender box. And so when I have something, I'm looking at it right now, is why I'm looking over there. When I have something that I just can't noodle my way through, I can't figure it out and I can't solve it. And, my brain tries to solve everything. I write it down and I put it in the box and I let it go, because there truly is, not everything can be figured out by sheer determination and will. And sometimes the biggest piece of resilience and taking care of yourself is understanding that surrender has to happen sometimes.
Ooh,
give it up to the manager.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you again. It was great value today. We appreciate you here. I know if Burl was here, he would really love this conversation with you. And you bring such energy and joy. So we're going to wish you the very best of the rest of the week, and stay safe. Everybody stay safe out there. Pay attention to what's going on in the world around you. Stay informed. Continue to grow and get Band-Aids. Go ahead and buy the Band-Aids, guys, because you're going to hit adversity. You're going to trip and fall. It's okay. And just put the Band-Aid on. Let's go at it again. So we're here to be a support, and we look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Sara, thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Paul. It's been great.
Y'all take care.
Bye.
If you are ready to level up your real estate business, set up a coaching consultation by sending an email to coach@workmansuccess.com. That's coach@workmansuccess.com.